back. Hour number 2 of Talk Line on the Metro News Radio Network in and around the great state of West Virginia. Hoppy Kercheval with you. K. Murray, our producer. Phone number 1-800-765-8255. Email talkline@wvmetronews.com. You know, Howard had a great point that it is always talk show hosts and people on live television and radio should always be cautious when criticizing what someone else says during a live broadcast and jumping on them too harshly, because we all live in this in this class, and at any moment, any one of us could say something or will say something. It's not really could, will, because we each will say something that we regret and wish we had not. So it is. It's usually not wise to throw stones on the confines of these glass houses, regardless of who it is, left or right. It's just because one day each of us has already done it at some point. But at some point in the future, if we're around long enough, each of us will be apologizing again for something that we said. Well, because it happens. No, it just does. Well, nothing recently, but it could happen. It might happen this hour. I don't want to jinx myself. 1974, Kanawha County textbook controversy, where Kanawha County was divided over a number of textbooks. They brought new textbooks into Kanawha County, and there were a number of educators who thought this is the change we need to make. This brings us into the 20th century at that time. However, a number of folks opposed. They said that these new textbooks conflicted with Christian values, with moral standing, with patriotism, and we had the great Kanawha County textbook controversy. There was violence. It was a national story. In fact, we had the anniversary last year, and did the whole thing all over again. One of the central players in all this, on the side of those criticizing the textbooks, was Pastor Avis Hill. And Avis called me yesterday and said, Hoppy, we have a book out about this because we say that the Kanawha County textbook protesters were the original Tea Party folks. Avis joins us on the CityNet Dateline. Avis, good morning. How are you? Good to talk to you again.
Good morning, Hoppy, from the land of the golden EIB microphone and the dimple chads. But I'm transplanted there, but I'm here home in West Virginia.
Oh, yeah, you're a Floridian now. You moved away.
Yeah, I took off and couldn't put up with West Virginia for a while, but I'm back home. And
maybe West Virginia. Avis, you ever think maybe West Virginia couldn't put up with you? You know, that's a double-edged sword, Avis.
I guess it would be. But, no, we come back. We've got a book written that Karl Priest has authored. It's called Protesters' Voices, the 1974 textbook Tea Party. What happened in West Virginia in 1974, and comparing it to the Texas controversies going on now. Texas wasn't no more than a teacup compared to the teapot that we had in West Virginia.
Mm-hmm. So is that what happened in 74 that, you know, whether it's about textbooks or whether it's about, I don't know, pick your favorite issue of the day. How is that analogous to what's going on today in the Tea Party movement?
Well, you know, what was being challenged in 1974 was the multicultural thing, and we were kind of like the shot that started the war in the beginning of the multicultural situation, and destroying family values and our religious values and that type of thing. Connie Marshner, who was with the Heritage Foundation at that time, declared 1974 protesters had old-fashioned American values, and they woke up the rest of the country. Appalachia, being a part of the Bible Belt, probably has greater moral values and religious values than most other places that we're there in the country.
Avis, the argument on the other side is that, look, you guys needed to move into the 20th century, now the 21st century. That while certainly people know and appreciate family values, that we are a culturally diverse society. We are a society that has, even biblically, a live and let live approach to things, that you guys were stuck in the past.
Well, you know, the Vista workers in 1960 came down from New York and said that they were going to help us get into the mainstream of society. And then I went to New York a time or two, and went to Washington, D.C. a time or two, and out of a motel window at night saw gangs fighting and graffiti everywhere. And I thought, my God, get me back to the mountains of West Virginia. We haven't progressed in a proper way over the years. I think we've degressed. We've trying to destroy the family unit. We're trying to destroy the values that's made this nation what it is today. When our president says he doesn't have the National Day of Prayer and all the things that's going on today, there is an attack upon the values that's made this nation the greatest nation in the world and the envy of this world. So we just stood up for right. That's all. We stood up for right, and 35 years later, it's been proven. The statistics will prove in the public school system today we were right and they were wrong. Unfortunately, that's a sad testimony, because we've lost a generation or two of kids now, and we don't have any values today. It's situation ethics. Whatever feels good, do it.
Well, but Avis, we do have. I mean, look, I would agree to some degree that on some of those things. But look, there are millions and millions of people. It's still a very religious country. Millions and millions of people still go to church every Sunday or Sunday night or Wednesday. In West Virginia, they hear about values. Those values are instilled by their families and by the church, by their neighbors. I mean, it's not as though these things have been abandoned. They are still prevalent throughout our society.
In our homes, you're right, Hoppy, but many of our universities and colleges today are infiltrated with socialist and communistic teaching. The revolutionaries of the 60s and 70s now have got the three-piece suits on and are instructing our children. I had a friend that has an IQ of 163, and to listen to him talk and rant and rave about America, I said, it's a shame that such a great mind you had to be trained by a bunch of stupid people who are totally against America. There's people out trying to destroy this nation, and as Khrushchev said in 1960 when he beat his shoe on the table of the UN, he said, we'll destroy America and never fire a shot because we'll do it from within, and that's what's happening. We're being destroyed from within. It's horrible.
Avis Hill is with us. Avis is Pastor Avis Hill. He was involved in the Kanawha County textbook controversy. He and who contributed to this book? Karl Priestley, who was involved in textbook controversy. Who else?
Karl Priest.
Karl Priest. I'm sorry.
He was in the Navy, and he came back and obtained his master's degree. He taught public schools 34 years, and retired, and we're working very much in the movement here. He authored the book along with all the rest of us who put chapters in the book. We have a chapter by Alice Moore and Ezra Grady and Marvin Horn and Charles Quigley and myself, and it's more of a book that gives statistics. And of course, there's been lots of books written, and lots of people have gotten some Pulitzer Prize winning awards, and even Trey Kay, who I like very much, won the Peabody Awards for the documentary that he did here last year. There's been lots of books that's been written about West Virginia and the protester, but it's always been from the slanted left side, and our side has never been really told in the public arena. In fact, this book is...
What's the name of the book?
Being turned down.
What's the name of the book?
Protester Voices.
Protester Voices.
Subtitle 1974 Textbook Tea Party.
But, Avis, the Trey Kay, we had on this program, and we did the anniversary show last year. We did it on radio. We did it at the Culture Center in Charleston. I thought that was a fair presentation, didn't you? I thought Trey Kay was right down the middle on this thing.
Trey did about the most fair presentation that I have seen in 30-some years. Mm-hmm. And I take my hat off to Trey, and I appreciate his efforts to do that. But the majority of all the writings that have been reported about the textbook controversy has been slanted so far left, and people who believe in American values of God, family, and country, they've been portrayed like a bunch of crazy people who can't think for themselves, who are stupid and dumb, and that's just about as far from the truth as you can imagine. Can be. Whenever NEA came in here in 74 and did their report, the Heritage Foundation flew people in that had PhDs and as much or more education than many people that testified at the NEA. People are sick and tired. That's the reason the Tea Party has such great momentum today, because people are sick and tired of what's going on with big government. More and more government and less the people. And that's what we started in 1974. And unfortunately, there was lots of things that brought some embarrassment, but in the
Well, because there was some violence. I mean, things got out of hand. I mean,
some violence. But when teachers, they create violence when they don't get paid. They go strike and march. Coal miners. Most of these people who are a part of the union efforts, it don't bother them to tear a place apart or whatever, and they get what they want. And what we did in the 70s, we took a page out of the Martin Luther King chapters preceding us of the human rights. And we were just taking a page out of that. We were totally nonviolent. All the ministers were, even though Reverend Horn was accused and convicted here of a situation. But we worked harder to keep things calm. If ministers hadn't been involved in that, there would have been a lot more violence than what there was.
I'm not going to, my gosh, every time we get together on this, Avis, we replow some of this ground. I mean, and we go back and replow some of this stuff. I do think that let me agree in part with you that one of the great benefits of this country is the ability to mobilize and protest what the government is doing without fear of retribution. Now, when things get violent or when things then it crosses the line and the state must step in. But there's always room in this country. There's always room in this country for protests from the left, the right, from the middle. That is a protection in this country. A protection in this country.
Well, it is. But my chapter in this book tells about the protection you have. There was a lot of things that never met the news media, was never broadcast about what really was going on, and the pressure was being applied to us socially, economically, to get us to stop. And my chapter in this particular book describes that, as well as Alice Moore and others. It wasn't a thing of friendly fire, I'll tell you that. There was lots of opposition, and there was violence pointed toward us, but the media tried to make it appear that we were just pulling off a PR stunt.
What are you doing now, by the way? You said you're back in West Virginia. What are you doing in Florida? You have a ministry in Florida?
Right. I work in a homeless ministry in South Florida.
Yeah.
And West Palm Beach. Been there 16 years, and we provide shelter for about 150 people a night, and feed about 500 meals a day.
Really?
And so it's been a major task since I've been there. We've had to take on Palm Beach County because they said we weren't zoned and licensed to help people. And coming from the hills of West Virginia, I never thought you had to have any some kind of special license or a permit to give somebody a cool drink of water or a morsel of bread.
I'm having senior moments. Patriots for Peace, didn't he come down and help you out? The pastor who was on the other side in Kanawha County, why can't I think of it?
Jim Lewis.
Jim Lewis. Didn't Jim Lewis come down and help? Didn't Jim Lewis help you out one time?
When I was near the point of the confrontation with the county that they were going to close the doors, Jim called and he said, if they lock your doors, I'll come down and lock you up. I'll come down and open the doors again. And I appreciate that gesture on his part, but it never had to happen. Never had to come to that point.
So here's Jim Lewis. Here's Jim Lewis, who was on the opposite side of you in the Kanawha County textbook controversy, where you guys were on completely opposite sides. It's very emotional. And here's a guy who, when you got in a jam, reached out and said, you need some help, I'll give it to you. What's that say to you?
Well, he'd been working very, very hard up here in the homeless movement here. And it's a two-edged sword, like you said. It's a catch-22, but I appreciate the fact that he called and offered his services to help us. But, you can be patriotic sometimes, but stand up against against wrong things. You can be patriotic and still be doing wrong. You can be a father, but you can still be a lousy father. And I'm not throwing that at Jim, but for some of the decisions that have been made on the left side, and our media, for the most part, is permeated with it. Our educational system is full of it today. It's a battle to get anything at all.
Avis, I look at the polls. I look at what's happening across the country, and I still believe the vast majority of people are really sort of middle ground people. Like I said, they go to work. It's a very religious country, and they just want to provide for their families and have some broad safety net that's out there and some security. But I think that America is still like it's always been, is pretty middle America. I don't think it's extremely liberal, and I don't think it's even extremely conservative. I think there's a middle America, and most people just want to go about their business.
Well, I think you're probably right. I met John Racy up in Washington, D.C. back a few years ago, and at a Republican convention up there, and I stated back then, I said, I can't understand why people who have industrialists and business people have allowed the leftists take over all the media and have all the voice. I said, when a country comes under siege and someone takes it over, first thing that captures the media. And I said, I don't understand why you folks don't step out and use some of your funds and buy up some radio stations, TV stations to get our message out. And good deal, he did. So, those things need to happen.
So you're back in West Virginia for how long?
I'll be here till Sunday. We're having...
where's your book signing or your book presentation? Where are you doing it?
We're doing it at the state capitol on Friday from 11 till 2 out front, on the north side at the fountain. If it rains, we'll be inside in the rotunda. And that goes from 11 until 2. And on Saturday, we'll be at Campbell's Creek, 3 mile up Campbell's Creek at Point Lake Park, Community Park. That's where the first big rally took place with Marvin Horn when the cars were backed up all the way down Campbell's Creek and out on Route 60. It created a traffic jam for the state police. We'll be there from 11 till 2 Saturday. And then on Thursday night, I'm going to be at Jim Ryan's restaurant in Alum Creek. And the first 5 people there at 6 o'clock, I'm going to give them one of my books. So tomorrow night I'll be at Jim Ryan's restaurant at Alum Creek. But the big events will be at State Capitol on Friday from 11 till 2. And on Saturday at Campbell's Creek at Point Lake Park from 11 till 2 also. We're going to have some entertainment, I think, there at the park on Saturday.
You're not going to sing, are you?
I might sing Country Roads or something, you know about me.
You've been known when there's a mic handy to either talk or sing or both.
You got a both, that's right.
All right, Avis Hill, Reverend Avis Hill.
I'm all right.
Avis, good talking to you.
Thank you, Hoppy, and we look forward to seeing folks who will come over and be with us, and we'll sign. All the ministers will be there. We'll give you a personal signature on the book and sign it for you.
All right, man. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. Avis Hill. Quite a character. Take a break and be back.
As a business professional, you might have reached that
line at WVMetroNews.com. Henry, thanks for calling. Welcome to Talkline. How are you?
This is Hoppy.
This is Hoppy.
This is Henry Thaxton, one of the uneducated ministers involved in the textbook controversy.
Okay.
My main concern is that much of what's been written about the protest has come from the mainstream media or the more liberal left side. Excuse me. And much of what's written is from reading what someone else has written and then adding to it. I think that those who opposed the protest need to be honest with themselves and read this book. It's the only attempt I know of to try to tell it from our side. And I think Karl Priest has done a good job.
Well, I think, I don't know, I haven't read the book, but I thought that the 35th anniversary, I thought that the panel discussion at the Culture Center, and I thought that Trey Kay's documentary was extremely fair.
I did too.
And here's I don't know what Trey Kay's politics are, and I thought that was a fair and balanced presentation of this guy put a lot of work into it. And I think that documentary is probably the definitive piece 35 years later on what happened.
Right. And I thought Trey has done a good job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not being critical of him, but the issue is still warm and a pretty hot issue for something that happened 30-some years ago.
Well, I found it interesting. I misjudged part of it because I lived through it from a distance. I was in Kanawha County, and I thought when we did that panel at the Culture Center, I thought it was going to be about reflective and that the affected parties were going to sort of have a meeting of the minds. And what I found was it just peeled back the differences that still existed. That we re-argued some of the same things. I was a little surprised by that, but I should have known better, I guess.
On the front row with some of the folks who sponsored that meeting, and I was surprised at how agreeable they were in some areas.
In some areas they were. I mean, in some areas the years had cooled things down. In some areas, not at all. In some areas, it was like the argument hadn't changed at all in 35 years. I got a break. We'll be back. Talk line on Metro News, the voice of West Virginia.